I want to thank all my good friends that are here. I want to first start with George Miller. George, I want to thank you for being the workers' warrior day in and day out. I can't think of a better friend. And George comes from California, not many coal mines out there, but from time immemorial, when we needed help on health and safety, he was there on the front lines, and George will never be able to thank you enough for all that you do, and for inviting us here today as well. We thank you for that. Also, I want to thank Representative Bob Brady for stepping out front and being the first person to co-sponsor this bill. I want to thank my sister and brothers, my brother from the American Federation of Music, President Tommy Lee. Tommy, thank you, buddy. And from the American Federation of Radio Television Artists, President Roberta Reardon. Roberta, thank you. And Peter, thank you for years of entertainment and years of showing us the way, the enlightened way. We appreciate that. And I want to thank Representative Chikowski and Representative Conyers for being here with us as well. I want to thank all of you, all of the people that I just mentioned, for your efforts on behalf of working Americans across our country. So I'm here on behalf of the AFL-CIO, and I'm pleased to stand here where we are today, united with the unions of AFM and AFTRA and their great leaders, Tommy Lee and Roberta Reardon, in support of the fundamental right of workers to be paid for their work. You see, in America, whether you're a performer or a firefighter, a teacher, a steel worker, or a coal miner, you shouldn't be cheated out of the wages that you earned. And yet, for the past 80 years, radio stations have used the publicly owned airwaves to make billions of dollars playing music without paying the artist that created it 1 red cent for using their recordings. Now, that's why all 11.5 million members of the AFL-CIO stand united with our performing sisters and brothers in support of the Performance Rights Act. You see, the labor movement was founded on the principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. And that's the principle, quite frankly, that's at stake in the fight for the Performance Rights Act. Our efforts are tied to the struggles of workers across the country who are saying collectively no to corporate excess and yes to corporate accountability. Working people understand all too well that big corporations use their power and their influence here in Washington to protect their profits at the expense of the rest of us. And the reckless greed that drives Wall Street is the same as the unconscionable greed that drives the handful of conglomerate corporate radio executives that control 75% of our nation's radio stations. I'm going to give you one example. That's Radio 1 executive Kathy Hughes. See, in the middle of the Great Recession, Radio 1 executives fired workers, they cut salaries, and they slashed benefits, while setting up for themselves a $2.7 million treasure chest for their own benefits and bonuses. So today, the parking lot at Radio 1 may be less crowded than it was last year, but there are probably a few new Porsches there. So to protect their profits, radio executives and their powerful lobbying arm, the National Association of Broadcasters, sold Congress a bill of goods laughably, and I truly mean laughably, called the Local Radio Freedom Act. The resolution has nothing, absolutely nothing, to do with freedom. It has everything to do with denying workers, America's workers, their fair day's pay. And no member of Congress who calls himself or herself a friend of labor can be for that. If you care about working Americans, you'll follow the lead of Representative Bob Brady of Pennsylvania. You'll remove your name as a sponsor of the so-called Labor or Local Radio Freedom Act, and you will co-sponsor the Performance Rights Acts. Now that'll put you on the right side of the fight for fair wages for workers and accountability for corporate crooks, all without hurting small radio stations, because that's the hook they try to use. You see, the Performance Rights Act would protect small, independent radio stations from expensive obligations. They would pay as little as $100 a year, actually $8 a month, to play all the music that they want. And anybody that says $8 a month is going to put them out of business, tell them, if they want us to believe that, I have oceanfront property in southwestern Pennsylvania that I'll sell you cheap. You know, I know where the American people stand in this battle. President Obama's administration has endorsed the Performance Rights Act. Even George Bush, President George Bush endorsed the Performance Rights Act. And now it's time for Congress to stand up and be counted on doing the right thing as well. If you care about music, if you care about the rights of Americans to get paid for their work, if you care about doing what is right, be part of the good fight for our performing brothers and sisters. It's time to pass the Performance Rights Act. It's time for fair play, for airplay. That's what we want to say. There's also one other congressperson I'd like to thank for being here, Representative Jerry Nadler. Jerry, thank you for being with us. We appreciate that. Thank you.